Okay, how's it going? Can you hear me? I see you're still connecting to audio.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, Andres, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Not too bad at all, man. Thank you for joining the office hours. I wasn't sure if anyone was going to show up.
Yeah, I missed meetings for the Open SSF last week because of finals, so I'm hoping to just in some way get back to it, you know.
Yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good. And you said finals, man. Is this a master's program or a bachelor's program?
Bachelor's. So I actually graduate this Friday. So.
Oh, wonderful, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah. So
What
finally
school?
done with school.
What school and degree? Well, don't say finally done with school. You could continue if you want to. What school and degree?
So I studied, well, I guess I can still saying I'm studying computer science at NJIT. So
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Nice. Excellent.
I think from previous Open SSF talks, they talked about, or I think they said that you went through your PhD, or is that accurate? Or
Yeah. I hold 2 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees, and a PhD. Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
tell me about that story and still staying in academia and just I don't know.
Well, the bouncing ball. I never had a mentor, or I never knew anyone that was attempting to do anything I've done. So it was really about a bouncing ball. I was in the military, and I started learning about information security in the military. In the DoD, which is the home of information security. So I got my bones there. But during that time, I wanted to study something that was going to help me after the military, because I wasn't sure how long I'd do that for. I got to a point where I did plan on retiring, and I did, but I wanted to do something that would help me out with employment. So I studied software engineering, because that was the software was, we would lose a Microsoft. We was using Microsoft stuff, Word, Office, all the Office suite, all the operating systems, Windows 95 and all that kind of stuff. And then I said, well, let's learn how to create some of this stuff. So that's what I did while I was in the military. It'd be surprised you is that I started out as a marketing major, but that was before the military. So I studied software engineering. While I was studying software engineering, I learned about error checking and error handling, and the importance of hardening your code, the importance of simplifying and tightening up code, and tightening up inputs, and how inputs are handled and everything else like that. And I started learning about why that's important. And that started my, I was already doing information security. I was already doing operational security. I was already doing, all that kind of stuff. Learning about aggregate pieces of unsensitive information could equal a piece of sensitive information, all that kind of stuff. So the information security ideology I already had, and then I started learning about information security as it was related to how programs and how software gets developed. So I said, well, man, is there an information security degree out there? And lo and behold, there was. So I began to study information security, and then I earned a degree in that. But while I was studying information security, I learned that information security, in definition, is securing business transactions. So then I started learning that information security itself is not a tech function, it's a business function. So I said, well, damn, I don't know business well enough. So then I said, man, I better study business. But before that, I said, well, let me learn about information security from a managerial standpoint. So then I said, well, shortest path to something is a straight line. So let me go ahead and get this master's in information security. So I did. And then while I was doing that, it kept coming back up. Business drivers, business function, business risk, business implications. And I said, dude, I need to study business. So I earned an MBA. And so I got an MBA in IT management. And then after that, I said, well, what's next? And then I said, well, hell, I'm still in the uniform. I don't know where, everybody probably has a master's degree. I better go ahead and get the next thing that I don't think a lot of people have. And that's when I started the PhD journey. And then, so I did that and completed the PhD. And then I had retired a few years before completing the PhD. I think that took me a while. But I retired out of the military, was working at PwC at the time, completed the PhD, and then the rest is history. But throughout all that time, I would earn certifications as well. So I have about 14, or I earned 14 or 15 certifications over the lifetime. I mean, I still hold a few of them. I don't hold many of them now. A lot of them I let go, but I still hold quite a few of them. But I would study something, pass the class, take a certification. So I would, it would be how I validated my learning, how I validated learned knowledge would be going to earn certification. But I was working at the same time. So all through my military career, I'd be working, doing communication security. At that point, I had left infantry. I stopped jumping out of planes and all that, and I was focused in on, teaching, either whether it be teaching information security, doing information security, doing cryptographic stuff, doing communication security stuff, doing active cyber defense stuff. And at the same time, I'd be studying it, and then I would earn a certification in it. So it would be learn, practice, learn, apply, practice, and test, right? Evaluate, learn, apply, practice, evaluate. And that would be the methodology I use. Even to this day, I use that methodology. So that's the bouncing ball method that I'm talking about. How I got from A to B, and then of course, like I said, it's still relevant to this day as I begin to work on things like AI and supply chain security, AI and supply chain security, all the whole SBOMs and VEX documentation, and every which way for CSAF. CSAF formatting and CSAF, that framework and formatting of documents and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I did a lot of things that we work on today. I'm constantly in a learning state. And then there'll be an evaluation point, right? But the evaluation point now comes in how we apply that stuff to tools and how we apply it to tools that are working tools that our customers consume, and how we evolve the state of things in the industry today. So that's a very long story to tell you how I got from A to B, which is why I said to you, be careful with saying you're done, because you can continue on.
That's fair, yeah. When I was earlier in my college career, I had like lofty ambitions for myself, and I was like, yeah, immediately after undergrad, right to the PhD. But I definitely am still somewhat interested in it. But like for right now, I think I want to get some working experience before I go back. But
and that's smart. I would encourage everyone, before you consider a PhD, to get some weight under you. Get some practice time on you. Learn. Like, it's cool to say you got a PhD until somebody runs up on you and tests your gangster, and now the math ain't mathing. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to get caught like that. You don't want to get caught like that.
Earlier, you talked about hardening code and kind of like the importance of that. Have you noticed like maybe like a shift with organizations kind of being more, I don't know, more aware of supply chain stuff, or is this like still like very new, and like we're still kind of like in really the age before this gets really big? Because I remember when I was working a little bit on co-op, like we were just learning about SBOMs, and I remember my manager taking a look at it just for a little bit. But then there were so many other things that we needed to do because we were a smaller team that it kind of just fell under the rug. And then when I started joining the OSSF meetings, I saw it again and I was like, oh, okay, wow, look at that. Have you kind of noticed like we're kind of at the golden age, or not really golden age, but a little bit before?
I think everything comes around full circle. So the concepts and things that we're working on today was stuff that we've been told, we were talking about 10, 15, 20 years ago. The only difference now is it's becoming more prevalent that we not just take a look at these things, but really make it commonplace in how we practice. I think a large part of the problem are SLOs, right? These organizations have these windows. It's first to market, right? First to market wins still. And as long as that's the case, it's going to be a rush on development. It's going to be a rush on getting something out there. You can always put out later releases. You can always put out hot fixes. You can, as long as that's the case, as long as you can always put out hot fixes, put out subsequent releases, put out patches, it's going to always be get that product out. If it's great, it's great. If it's not so great, fine, that's okay. We can always fix it later, right? Now, what's the difference between then and now? The current EO, the current executive order, and the subsequent cybersecurity guidance that's been developed as a result. Also, the emerging, which was, again, 10 years ago, this was happening. Now, there's meat behind it, but cyber liability. What does cyber liability actually mean? So now it's like, okay, you put that product out. Now, if somebody's organization gets taken down as a result of a product that they consumed, that's your product that they consumed, and it could be traced back that you didn't do your due diligence in properly hardening that code or properly, or your SBOMs or whatever it is, doesn't have all the ingredients in it, or your VEX documentation or your VDR documentation has vulnerabilities that weren't mitigated properly. Now you, not the company, you can be held liable now. The product producer can be held liable now for distributing and selling faulty products, similar to like a car that's a lemon, right? It says you're a lemon and the car doesn't work. They could be held liable. They got to take it back, right? Now, we're coming into an issue where that producer can be held liable, which now changes the game completely. Not only do you have to produce, and which is coming, and not currently, but coming, so emerging, produce an SBOM that says, these are the ingredients. And of course, we have to determine what's going to be publicly available and then what's only available to the actual consumer of said product when it comes to an SBOM, because you got your special sauce and your proprietary ingredients inside of your software that you don't necessarily want to get out before somebody can duplicate. Now you have a whole bunch of issues there, but we're coming into an issue now where the SBOM has to be right? And now we got to validate the quality of that SBOM. And then you're going to have VEX documentation that says whether there's a vulnerability, there's a CVE out there against one of your transitive dependencies. Is that dependency vulnerable to that threat? And then now, you're saying, well, no, it's not affected. Well, why is it not affected? It says it's there, it's not affected. Well, because of these particular variables that have not, because this patch, or because of the way it's built over here, or the way, or this compiler, or whatever the case is, makes it so that it's not affected. So now you're going to have that kind of documentation that's saying that, which aids to say, well, we have this ingredients list and this vulnerability exploitability exchange document that says this wasn't affected. We also have this vulnerability disclosure report that says, we disclose this vulnerability, but this vulnerability is not affected because it's been patched with this. But yet now we have this organization says that it was exploited using X, Y, and Z. Now, who's at fault? Or were your documentation not complete, or was there something wrong with the documentation, right? So you have all of these factors that are coming up as well. So I would say now more than ever, there is a tighter look at, the supply chain. There are threat models created now around the supply chain. There's more prevalence. There's more of a look and feel around making sure you're inventorying CD pipelines, making sure that pipelines are scanned properly, making sure that there's sanitization that occurs. You know, now we're going back to the quality control and quality assurance aspects of software development, right? So now we're going back to you know, your QCs in the front, your QAs in the rear, right? Verification versus validation and all that kind of, you know, we're doing that stuff again. That stuff again, right? When's the last time you seen an advertisement for a job for a QA engineer? That was 15 years ago, but that's coming back now, right? QA engineering is coming back, where it kind of went away for a while. It's coming back. So like I said, we're you know, things are coming around kind of full circle with a few additions. But it is putting a spotlight now on how things are getting developed and the supply chain that things are being developed in, which is a whole rhyme or reason behind things like SALSA and S2C2F out of the Supply Chain Integrity Working Group.
You said SALSA and S2.
C2F.
Oh, I see. Are there any like certifications or kind of bits of resources that probably would be the best to look at for supply chain security?
Oh yeah, man. LF has a whole, if you go to LF training and development, David Will has written a lot of training materials. If you get into the best practice, like you go up to the best practices working group, which is the working group that this subcommittee falls under. Yeah, best practices guides left and right. If you get into the training and development angle of things and you start looking at some of those certifications therein, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you could take a look at and really sink your teeth into in terms of coming up. And this is from an open source development standpoint. There are a few certification bodies externally that do carry some software stuff as well. I know ISC Squared has one. I'm not sure, can't remember which other. I think I'm not sure ISACA has one, but I know ISC Squared has one. There's maybe a few others out there, but you can look those up. But there are things out there that are talking about supply chain. And of course, if you go to things like Microsoft and Amazon and even Google, they'll have training. Coursera has training, right? You get the LinkedIn has training, right? There are a few things out there, especially with free training that you can take that'll get you a foundational understanding of a lot of this stuff.
I think Google just dropped their cybersecurity like Coursera thing. So like I know before they had the support, like the tech support one. Yeah. And now they like finally have their security one. So I'm definitely gonna look at that.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at it. Absolutely.
I don't know, we'll see. And did you also attend the OpenSSF North America?
Oh yeah, I was there. I actually spoke there at a couple of speaking engagements.
Nice. How was that? Unfortunately, that was kind of like when I was finishing up my last final, so couldn't attend in person.
It's pretty good. I mean, it was hell. I liked it last year. This year was pretty good. A lot of great speakers out, and a lot of good information put out, like always. You do a pretty good job putting this stuff out. Yeah, they do a pretty good job putting it out. It'd be great. We're always advocating, at least I am, for the college student to attend, to rub shoulders with a lot of people in the industry, because it's, you know, these are not only producers of software but consumers of it as well. You got your maintainers, your open source maintainers that attend as well. So to get a good idea of how you get from A to Z on the maintainer side, how you get into some of these organizations and some of the things that you look out for, and be a great idea for you guys to get involved, especially at the collegiate level. I mean, the student fee to get into these conferences is very, very little. And if you can find somebody to sponsor you, it's even better, right? And there are a lot of organizations that are willing to do that. Hell, we're trying to get funding so that we can do that here out of this SIG, especially for underrepresented communities.
Yeah. That's good to know. I'll tell some people at NJIT that that's a thing.
Yeah.
Because I like one of the new things that we also started at NJIT was a new cybersecurity club. And I was just trying to like get them into the open SSF meetings, or at least just like attending some. But unsure. There's a lot of other things, but I don't know. Maybe I'll push a little harder. See if they can while I'm gone.
Yeah, get them involved. Do it now, because we're here and we want to help. That's our whole rhyme or reason. Yeah, we absolutely want to help. We want to help. We want to get people in front of other people. We want to create pathways to success. And it's very important that as you're starting your career with the right foundation under you, with the right thought process on how you're going ahead and developing and creating and envisioning, how you take steps in your career and the way that you go ahead. I mean, all this stuff is increasingly important. Just putting your hands on keyboard is one thing, but how are you putting your hands on the keyboard? That's what's important. And then whether or not you understand what's happening up and down the chain, that's important as well.
The other thing that I was also like curious about, because I was kind of toiling about this issue, was automation of security. Like I'm not entirely sold on just the fact that you can automate one section and then that section's like completely like secure and stuff. For example, when I was working at the security place that I was, one of the big things that I was like trying to do was doing like Ansible playbooks for like hardening of systems. However, there were like too many like factors to put into play to make it like good automation. And then if it was like automated like well, there just wasn't like enough like eyes on it, or like I just deemed it like to not be like secure enough. How do you like ameliorate like security when it comes to like automation and automation when it comes to security? I know these are like pretty like abstract things that I probably have not explained well, but I was kind of curious on your take.
No, your question is very, very valid. I'll let you answer it yourself. What would you do? What would you do if somebody told you something was secure because they put a tool to it? What would your next step be?
Let's see.
Well, let's take a random waterfall method. I say a waterfall method because all agile is a series of waterfall sprints in my firm. That's my opinion. Let's take a waterfall method. Give me what you do after you designed, you've coded. What do you do next?
Design, coded, I suppose implement if it's not like already implemented. And
then test. Right. You test, but how do you test? What are the two different kinds of testing?
You can do just like, you can test on like whether the configuration has been updated properly, or you can also test by like the result of that.
I said, what are the two different types of testing?
Not entirely sure about the specific.
Static and dynamic.
Yeah.
Static and dynamic, right? Tell me the difference between static and dynamic testing.
Static will just kind of look to see if the output is accurate, and I would assume dynamic is to look kind of more along the lines of like, hey, when this process is running, are there any like bugs in it?
So tell me about tooling with respect to static and dynamic testing.
The tooling for static testing is like pretty simple compared to the ones of dynamic, because for the ones with dynamic, you need like a sort of real system to actually figure out if there is like a bug. There can be a bug that only happens every so often because of some conditions, but that's like an inherently like difficult thing to like
Stay on
rule out.
stay on the some conditions part, right? Stay on the some conditions part. When I ask you about the tooling with respect to static versus dynamic, stay on the conditions part. Which conditions, tell me, when it comes to conditions, when you think about, let's go back to your original question about automated tools. Can automated tools test for all conditions?
No.
Okay, what do you need to do to be able to really cover down on some of those conditions? It can't be automated. What does it have to be? What's the opposite of automated?
Manual.
Manual. So to answer your question, right? When you say you're not sure if automated tools is a rhyme or is the sum of all, and I say to you, oh no, not no, but hell no, it ain't. And this is coming from someone who's also a penetration tester. You can do a scan, a vulnerability scan, and that vulnerability scan can say that you have this vulnerability available with this thing is vulnerable to this CVE or this because of this version number or this and that and other. You have to turn around and say, okay, let me make sure. How do you make sure? You must manually now test that vulnerable. You must manually test that application to make sure it's exploitable with that vulnerability. See, you used a piece of automation to say that our environment's now secure, or we've done this automation that's now secure. Now you then have to go ahead and manually test to make sure, especially if you have a concern. There are some items where you can say, oh no, I applied this tool, and yes, I can guarantee after I apply this tool, it's secure. But then there are some conditions that say that an automated tool to secure it is not going to be sufficient. Let me make sure the door is locked.
Okay, I see.
Right?
Yeah. So do you think like potentially a way to ameliorate the insufficientness of like automation? Do you think that's where kind of AI is going to make strides, or kind of where are you with AI? I know like some people are on the fence that like, hey,
actually, I think it's the exact opposite.
Interesting.
I think it's the exact opposite. I think AI is going to do a great job in the front, but I think that we always need to make sure, because it goes the thing that you have to remember about AI. So the illogical nature of a logical engine, and this is something that I say, not many people will say this. For me, as long as it's a human being writing the code in that large language model, you're at the logic, and the algorithm is at the logic and at the it's as logical as the person encoding it at the time, and any learnt information based on that algorithm is as fallible. That's me saying this. That's me thinking out loud about this. That being the case, you can have an AI. You can have an AI that says, we have to check this, and this. Oh, wait, you know what? We have to check that too. And then that AI engine can absolutely do those things. But what happens if the AI engine and the algorithm is programmed to think business driver, to think productivity, to think business need? just because something is vulnerable doesn't necessarily mean that that vulnerability needs to be mitigated if in such instances it prohibits business drive such that the cost to mitigate is less or is more than the actual item that it's supposed to protect. Or flip the script. The cost to mitigate is less than and I'm gonna say a factor of 10, maybe. I don't know. I don't. But different companies have different thresholds. But let's say the cost to mitigate it is $5 or $20, and you end up losing $100 in revenue, or you cannot mitigate it and gain $1,000 in revenue, but you're still vulnerable. So now you're saying, well, hell, we'll take the loss because our gain is a lot more, right? These are business reasons. These are business thoughts, right? But what happens if the AI engine is programmed to think that way? And now they're making that decision around things universally across the board, and it's not differentiating between one thing or the other because logic in, logic out. Right. So I'm not saying this is forever too. I mean, I think there might be advancements in the way that these large language models are going about creating these AI engines, and the AI engines are evolving over time. I'm saying way in the beginning, there does need to be, once again, a human element. Even if you walk by a door and you hit a button and the door locks, you should still turn around and pull on that damn door to make sure it's locked. Hell, I do it in my house. I use my key. I put my key in the lock. Lock. I then pull, I squeeze, I turn the handle to see if the handle turns, and then I pull the door. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Right? You've already you gotta test it. You gotta test it, man. You gotta test it. Absolutely. You got it.
Interesting. Okay. That was like pretty insightful with the AI. That's kind of.
Oh, like I said, I'm the only. Look, there not many people. Some are gonna. You know, like I said, logic in, logic out, man. Some of them are gonna say, no, AI is, you know, and they're gonna put their rhyme or reason behind it. Some, not all, some. They're gonna put their rhyme or reason behind it, and I am not the one. I'm not a skeptic. I do believe in AI, and I do believe in the power of AI and the viability, and also the God the path to the future, a great future that AI creates if it's used correctly, if it's developed soundly, if the proper time is taken to make sure I's are dotted and T's are crossed correctly, which we're not doing, right? I do see a path in that regard, which is great. Because of my view that way, though, I say, man, we're moving at light speed, man. We're moving at light speed, and maybe, just maybe, we might want to take a couple of beats here, man. We might take a couple of, slow down just a couple of seconds and make sure that we're properly dotting I's and crossing T's, man. Before we get ourselves into a situation that's not, we hem ourselves up a little bit. What I don't want is for us to hem ourselves up, which I see occurring a little bit.
Sure. I recently was on the pretty against AI because I was like, I'm not too sure. But recently, I was competing at a hackathon, and I realized just like the more of the world of AI, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually incredibly promising. Like potentially, if like you said, used correctly, and properly vetted. I think that's super important.
Yeah, man, we got to pay attention. We got to pay attention. You know, we got to pay attention, and we got to take heed. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not every technology is good technology. We got to make sure that we're doing our due diligence here. You know, like I said, my views on that are my views on that are my own, though.
Fair, yeah.
But because you're budding, brand new to the space, you're coming out into the world, and and you got all these outstanding and wonderful questions. You know what I mean? Take you know, don't just ask me. You know, to ask other people too. NIST has a great publication they just put out around AI security. There's also been a couple of papers written. I'm reading one now about cybersecurity and AI, just released in April. A nice research paper that was done that I'm getting ready to dive into head first. So get your hands on everything that you can get your hands on, man. Read, study. Like I said, you just said I'm done with school. Nah, you ain't done yet, man. This industry is evolving too rapidly to say I'm done with anything. You haven't even cracked the surface. You've studied from a theoretical standpoint. I'm pretty sure that your teachers have gave you some good food for thought, and they've grounded you pretty well. You know, with what's currently going on in the industry and all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure that they gave you the right education, but now it's time to come out here and get the right experience, which looks a little different depending upon who you work for, and because different organizations have different methodologies they use internally for the way that they develop.
What would you recommend is kind of the best role to take within security? I know before you talked about how you were working for PwC. Would a good role for just coming out of school to kind of more focus on consulting, or if possible, the security engineer route? I know.
Oh man, that's a wonderful question, man. You know, I would say to you, focus on getting. So if cybersecurity is your path, and it's not just development, software development, and all that kind of stuff, and you want to really get an idea of where you should apply your skills or what you should be focused on, you really want to do that, I would say to you, consulting's an amazing area to start in, because consulting will expose you to different industries and the different nuances in each industry, right? So they'll expose you to, like, I mean, if you can get into like the financial sector, you get into healthcare, you get into government, you get into utilities and energy, right? It'll expose you to all of these different organizations and all these different companies. It'll expose you to different partners and how different partners communicate. It'll expose you to how, you know, even with respect to different meetings that you'll have within these organizations, it'll give you an idea of how C-suite communicates, different CISOs communicate. It'll also give you a good idea about knowledge gaps, right? Who's been read in? Who's up on game? Who reads the articles? Who reads the literature? Who pays attention to emerging threats in the industry? Or who just seeks the guidance of companies like PwC to know and not know, right? It'll expose you to all that kind of stuff. And then you'll get a good idea of, man, this is the part of cybersecurity I want to focus on. See, I'm an information security traditionalist. I focus on information security, and everything to me is a derivative. So I go down the line and I do all that. But if cybersecurity is your, like, what part of cybersecurity do you want to focus on? Do you want to be the penetration tester? Do you want to be the secure supply chain or the security practitioner? Do you want to be a user tester? Do you want to be on the vulnerability disclosure side? You know, do you want, like, there's so many different areas
theoretically that you can get into, becoming a consultant and bouncing around and making sure you're focusing in on one area, and then saying, you know what, I've been doing this for a year. I want to do this over here now, and taking the time and going over there and doing that stuff. All that'll do is make you a stronger practitioner cybersecurity wise, but it'll also give you a place where you want to do your focus, like where you want to focus your career, and then be a not a jack of all trades and master of none, but be a master of a trade. The chasm is so deep and wide. You can have a wide spectrum of the chasm, but be deep in one area or maybe another. You have to be deep in all of them. You can definitely be a master in one area or another while having and maintaining knowledge across the spectrum, which will make you a stronger candidate, and it'll also give you focus on where you want to work, the direction you want to take your career, all that kind of stuff.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I'm so happy I went the route I went, especially after the military. After the military, it was increasingly important that I did it the way that I did it, and that's only because the military provided me an avenue where I got everything from a government standpoint, everything from that kind of rigor, regulatory, all that kind of stuff. And then I came out, and then I got exposed to the private sector, which operates a little differently. Private sector, there aren't as many constraints, regulatory wise.
Fair. Okay, interesting. That's super insightful. Yeah, thanks.
Man, you got some great questions, man. I'm actually really impressed with the questions you're asking. That's what this office hours is for, man. That's what this is for. So your questions, man. Your questions are why this office hours is important, man. That's it. Like I'm so appreciative of your questions. You have no idea. You have no idea.
I'm appreciative of the time that you took to kind of like have this, so I can pick your brain and see what ways I can be better. Just kind of like as quote unquote like the new kid on the block, very new in security.
Yeah, that's what the office hours is for, and the office hours is for.
Hello.
I'm still here. I just left one internet connection and jumped over to another.
Okay, yeah, I was like, oh, I can't hear him.
Yeah. Good. So, like I said, I would encourage you to get your classmates, especially while you're still in school, have them, especially the sophomores and the juniors that really want to get a good idea and understanding of what's going on and get a leg up. Come on in. Let's have a discussion. Let's point you guys in the right direction. Give you guys something to do that'll help. As a matter of fact, I'm not terribly sure internship-wise whether or not a lot of the stuff you can do can be counted towards internships, but I damn sure know that you guys can get some good hands-on and some good thoughts around that type of stuff, and then be able to like put in your resumes, we did this, and this, or we looked at that. That'll help you out with getting internships. Believe it or not, a lot of these internships today are looking for well-rounded students. Not just students who are studying and then turn around and apply for an internship. But if you apply for an internship saying, I joined the Open SSF and I worked on, I lent my skills, the new skills I just developed to helping to build this tool. Or I looked at this policy or these standards and helped develop these standards and asked these questions or provided this level of input. That goes a long way when you're applying for internships, man. A long way. So a lot of these freshmen, sophomores, and juniors that have an opportunity to apply for internships can come in to an organization such as this. Is free to do, It's free. And come in and get guidance. We're not expecting you to be a practitioner. We're not expecting that of you. When you come in and say, I'm a freshman in college, you tell us you're a freshman in college, we're hitting you with information. We're guiding you. We're building you. We love this. And we'll take you and we're like, oh, dude, what? Come over here, do this, come over here. You're like right for the picking. And we'll show you stuff. We'll show you stuff. And then you'll be able to show your friends, and you'll be able to have, when you're in lectures, talk about the stuff we're showing you from a practical standpoint.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll definitely be sure to tell them. I was curious before I head out, because I think we're nearing the top of the hour. Is it possible to connect with you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. My first name, Jautau. I am the only one there. So if you put in my first and last name and hit search, I show up.
Sounds good. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Well, it was again a pleasure chatting with you, and hope you have a nice rest of your day.
You too, Andres. Man, take it easy.
Yeah. Have a good one.